Hi everybody, Mark here from pondalgaesolutions.com, and in this video I want to cover 5 of the most common questions we get about the Biosphere Pro pond treatment. The first question is, are they safe? And the answer to that is yes. They are completely safe to use with pets, people, animals, wildlife, fish. Very, very safe. All of the microorganisms used in commercial bacteria blends are listed as Class 1 bacteria. These are microorganisms that have never been identified as causative agents of disease in man and that offer no threat to the environment. On a more specific or use case level, I can tell you that in the last 20 years we have used the Biosphere Pro in a variety of installations, from zoo exhibits for flamingos to tigers. We have used them in equine drinking tanks. The formula has been used in bird baths, fish ponds of all sizes, diving dog training tanks, and more applications. And the product has proven to be extremely safe for all life forms. It is simply, when you consider a microbial and what they do in a pond environment, they are not a chemical. Okay, that's number one. They are basically a pond cleaning mechanism. Second question, do they sink? And the answer to that is yes. They are self-weighted, and when you apply the sphere to a pond, you would simply toss it out into the pond, and once it hits the water, it will readily sink to the bottom and typically stay in place down there, and it will slowly release its components over a 30-35 day period. After that, you could choose to leave the sphere in there and it will biodegrade very, very slowly over time, or you can choose to tie a light tie line on and tie it off and then pull it back out when you're done in 30-35 days and put the components in a recycling system, and it's fully recyclable and biodegradable. Third, what is the temperature range when I can use them? Keeping in mind that most pond bacteria that you see on the market are warm water microbes, meaning they suggest using them in water temperatures from 55 to 60 degrees on up. The Biosphere Pro is actually all season. It contains 2 blends, one cold water blend and warm water blend. And so it actually works from 34 degrees water temperature up to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can use it right after ice out in the spring and all through the summer months during the hottest times of the year. Number 4, how do they work? And secondarily, do they actually work? It's a good question. So how do they work? Well, all microbes work mainly as a natural pond cleaner. Again, when you work with a microbial to help improve, let's say, an algae problem, it's not treating the algae directly and it's not killing the algae directly. Only algicides can do that. But what you're doing is changing the pond environment, bringing the pond environment to a more clean and balanced condition. These microbes actually do a couple different things in a pond. One, they help consume or use up excessive nutrients. They feed on the same nutrients that something like algae does, phosphorus and nitrogen, and they help lower the nutrients in the water column. Secondarily, they also help break down organic material and build up in the pond. This could be in the form of muck, it could be in the form of decayed leaves, dead plant matter, algae, things like that. They actually help break that material down into a consumable form and then basically consume the byproducts of that. And so it's a very multi-purpose, unique way, really it's the only way, frankly, to clean a pond other than literally physically cleaning a pond out, dredging it, draining it, dredging it, and starting from scratch. And so what we're really using is the natural microbial approach that nature uses to help try to keep a pond in better shape, but we're supplementing microbes in to support that work. And so they are natural pond cleaners, for no better word. The Biosphere Pro is a little different than the products that you see on the market, such as the packets or the liquids that are microbial in nature. The Biosphere will treat a pond for a full 30 days or more. We usually leave them in 35 days to maximize the full duration of the release, but it is a time-release system of microbes at a very consistent dosage, preloaded and pre-measured for immediate application. There's 4 different sizes available to treat ponds from around 5,000 gallons up to 1 million gallons or more. And again, they're fully biodegradable components, and they work in a broad and temperature pH range. pH range would be from 6.8 up to 9.0 generally. Do they work? Well, yes, they do work. Again, let me preface that by saying that, as I've mentioned in other videos in the past and have said for a long, long time, please be aware that there's no silver bullet to managing things like an algae problem. Even chemicals don't work all the time. So it would be dishonest or unreasonable to say that these work in every single case, because what you're trying to do is improve the pond's condition and nutrient profile so much that things like algae simply cannot grow or be sustained. When you do that, things clear up and look really good, odors go away, and the pond looks better and better. It does not work in every single case for a variety of reasons. Sometimes people don't use them long enough. Sometimes the nutrient influences are so great that it's very hard to overcome. Sometimes ponds are so shallow and so messed up that it just isn't the best approach to trying to treat them. But for many, many people over the last 2 decades, they have seen great success with the Biosphere Pro. They have reordered it year after year to use either as a very short-term supplement to start the season, or in some cases they might treat throughout the season. But many, many people have found them to be very good solutions. We've always felt that they're the best place to start, because unlike a chemical, you're attacking the root of the problem of why you have unwanted odors and growth, and that is either high nutrients in the water or an accumulation of muck or organic debris that you need to reduce and clean up anyway to help with a number of different issues. It is as organic as you can do it, it is eco-friendly, and it is non-chemical, and it is safe. And so for us, that's where we like to start. I will also mention that any microbial, including the Biosphere Pro, will work better with good aeration in place. That is so foundational. These microbes are aerobic in nature, and they benefit greatly, as do all aquatic life, from higher dissolved oxygen levels in the water. How long do they take to work? Well, that's a tough question to answer, and honestly, it just depends on the pond. Although these ponds have some similarities between them, they are all uniquely different in their age, in the influences that they have in and around them that are leading to things like unwanted growth and odors. And so they're all quite unique in how they respond. Water chemistry may differ as well. So what we tell people is, when you treat with a microbial, including the Biosphere, give it at least 30 days, and at best, go out 60 days if possible, and give it time to work. They are not fast acting necessarily. We have seen some ponds start to clear up within a matter of 10 days to 2 weeks with the spheres, but other ponds have taken much longer than a month. And so you want to give them a fair shake. Part of their safety profile is they don't necessarily create rapid change, but they change things very gradually and slowly, which is actually beneficial and protective for things like fish and other aquatic critters. Rapid changes can sometimes be dangerous for them, and so that's another benefit of working with something like the Biosphere. So I want to leave you with some tips for the best results, and this applies to any microbial that you may be using in a pond to help with various problems. You want to be sure to get an accurate estimate of your gallon volume. You can use an online calculator. We have one on our site at Pond Algae Solutions, but you also can find them very easily just through a simple Google search and figure out what your gallon volume is based on the surface area and the depth that you have. And don't shortchange this number. In other words, if you're going to miss a little on the high side when you consider dosing with a microbial. Do not ever underdose initially with a microbial. This will not get you the results you want because the product will be too diluted. The baseline dosage is always going to be the total gallon volume of the pond. Go no lower than that, but that's also just a starting point. If you already have problems, accumulation of muck, bad algae, odors, all kinds of different things, then you know that the nutrient levels are probably quite high, and you will definitely want to go higher than this baseline volume. You can go anywhere from 2 to 3 times over the suggested dosage to actually see if you can get the pond to shift to a cleaner condition. What do I mean by that? Well, if your pond calculation comes out to 500,000 gallons, it's not unreasonable to try a 1,000,000-gallon treatment initially or more to initially dose the pond with adequate microbes. There is really no downside to doing it because their safety profile is so high. The worst you might see is a bit of cloudy water if you really, really overdo it. But you must use enough microbes to not only meet and exceed the gallon volume of the pond, but also to meet and exceed the nutrient level or nutrient influence that the pond is under. If you use enough microbes, that's your best chance of checking those nutrients and starting to see very early improvement in an algae condition or odors going away or whatever. So make sure you use enough, especially initially, to get the pond to shift to a cleaner position. You want to try to commit to using a microbial from at least 30 to 60 days or longer. Don't go just a couple weeks with a liquid or a powder and think that's all that it will take. The spheres will treat for 30 days minimum. We like to suggest using them 2 months back to back to give it a fair shake and see how things look at the end of that time. You can also check your water chemistry to make sure it's supportive of microbials. This would include a pH that's reasonable. As I mentioned before, alkalinity and hardness also come into play. And then you want to consider using aeration with any microbial application to get the best results out of them and actually get the longest duration of control using microbials to help manage various problems. Aeration just supports all that work exceptionally well. So at any rate, I hope this information helps. If you have additional questions about your pond using pond microbes or pond algae issues, be sure to reach out to us at pondalgaesolutions.com. We'll be happy to help, and I hope you have a great day wherever you are.